All right, TikTok people, I have that is not the right intro. Welcome back, YouTube people. I am so happy to see you all again. Following the string of educational content I've been putting out, I thought I would show you guys something very, very specific and niche that is asked for on my Twitch streams all the time. The mechanic that I am talking about in this specific video is a movement mechanic that I have coined copy kicks. I'll go in and explain what copy kicks are here in just a little bit later on in the video, but for right now, I just wanted to let you guys know, kind of as a channel update, this is what I'm going to be moving towards as far as content goes. I'm going to be going towards educational stuff, teaching you guys how to play the game, and maybe later on in the future, if I play other games, I'll be doing educational content for those games as well. But I'll go ahead and wrap it up over here because I know my guides tend to get pretty long. If you do end up liking the video, the best way of supporting it is by dropping a like, and if you have not already, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on so you never miss a post of mine in the future. And I'm kind of done blue balling you guys. Let's get into the video. Okay, you know what we got to do first? We have to high five Lastimosa, and now we can go ahead and get into the video. All right, for the first couple of steps, this is not right. You know what? This is perfect. You know what? As far as tutorials go, I have a great strategy on how to move better, and it is to just do a simple thing I like to call leaving this map. Never ever play this map. Okay, now that we're on the right map, we're just going to do the start of this video, which is re-explaining wall kicks to you. As you guys can tell from the title, this is a wall kicking guide, or at least a very specific kind of wall kicking guide. But I thought it'd be very important to explain to you the mechanics of wall kicking. I'm going to keep this one really, really brief because I already have a movement guide. If you have not seen that already, go check that out. It explains in much more depth what we are doing here, at least the first step of what we are doing here. So if you have not seen that, please go click on that video right now. It is on the screen for you. Now, just for your little refresher course, the definition of wall kicking is getting on a wall and jumping off of it as fast as possible in order to get the most speed as possible. You get the most speed from jumping off of a wall when you spend the least amount of time on it. So as soon as you touch the wall, you want to get off of it as soon as possible. This is down to the frame that you touch the wall. I mean, it can literally be that fast. The best way to do this is to go into the gauntlet or in a private match like I am doing right now and just practice, practice, practice. I can't take the controller out of your hands and show you exactly how to do this. You really do just have to nail the timing of getting it down. There are a couple of very specific ways to increase the speed or decrease the amount of speed you're going to lose when you touch a wall, and those are covered in that movement guide. What I will tell you as of right now, as far as a couple of little tips, is you want to be strafing towards the wall that you're going to hit, and then immediately once you touch the wall and jump off of it as fast as possible, as you will hear me mention multiple times in this video, as soon as you have jumped off of it as fast as possible, you want to strafe out opposite of the direction that the wall was. So if I'm jumping on a left wall, I'm going to strafe out to the right, immediately after touching the wall. And if I'm jumping on a right wall, I'm going to be strafing out to the left immediately after touching a wall. It's all about mirroring your movements so that you get the most momentum as possible, and also that mirroring helps you weave in a couple of easy air strafes to get you a little bit of speed throughout your run. And that mirroring your angle bit is covered a little bit in that guide, but also it is important for what we are going to be covering right now in this video, which is copy kicks. And this gets a little bit intense, so make sure you're paying attention. We're going to go ahead and go into another map, which is much better for the actual technique of copy kicking, and there's a lot of opportunity for copy kicks, and it is definitely the best map to practice on, and I'm going to show you guys that map right now. Alright everybody, we are here on Eden, and the reason I took you to Eden is because of this big rail right here that I'm going underneath right now. The reason this is important will be explained later, but for right now, let's go ahead and just define what copy kicks are. What are they? Essentially, copy kicks are jumping off of a wall and then using that same exact wall that you just jumped off of on the same directional plane of that wall in order to perform another wall kick and set yourself up for wall kicking off of it again. I know that was a lot. That was a mouthful. I probably didn't explain it the best way I possibly could have, but this is what it looks like. Jump off, wait, jump back on, wait, jump back on. That is copy kicking. I just did 3 right in a row. The first kick is not exactly a copy kick, but because it's in the same strand of the movement, I go ahead and count it for that one. But this is what it looks like, and it's pretty hard to do, honestly, and I think it's one of the most difficult things you can do in Titanfall 2 as far as movement goes. Now, how do we actually do copy kicks? It's pretty simple. If you have made it to this point in my guides, you probably know a little bit about movement already. The reason I say that is because I have explained in both of my descriptions of wall kicking, both in this video and in my movement guide, that you should be mirroring your momentum. You should be mirroring your movements when going on and off of a wall in order to give yourself a little advantage when you're using air strafing. Copy kicking is no different, and actually it's more important while you are doing copy kicking, because you can't do this right after you jump off of a wall. You can't just jump on a wall like this and then go straight back to it and jump on it again. It'll kick you off, just like it just did to me right there. So what you have to do in order to perform a copy kick successfully is spend enough time in the air for it to reset the timer of kicking you off of that wall. You can't run on the same directional plane of a wall that you just jumped off of within about 2 seconds. So you have to be up in the air for about 2 seconds before you can reconnect to that wall. Eventually you're going to fall off, but usually you only want to do 1 or 2 copy kicks in a row before it's completely inconvenient or not practical to be doing that anymore. So the reason mirroring your movements whenever you're hitting off of a wall is important for copy kicking is because you need to spend time in the air to reset that timer. Now, a lot of these are really close, and I can't even do this every single time, but what I do try to do every single time is when I'm jumping off of a wall, I go out opposite of the wall that I was on, and then strafe back in as like a final result, So you want to make sure that if you're jumping off of a left wall, let's use this rail as an example, I go out to the right first, and then I'll go back to the left. See, even then, I was moving really fast already because that's all you really need, but I tried to redo it and I wasn't in the air long enough. So you want to make sure that you're strafing, let's say this wall is on the right. You want to make sure you're strafing out to the left and then back to the right onto the same exact wall. So to give you another example really quickly, on the left wall, I'm going to go out to the right and then back to the left. I was a little bit too shallow in my altitude, but the timer was reset, I promise. Out to the right, out to the right and back to the left, and we're back on. Out to the right, back to the left. The reason I have this rail here and the reason you've seen me mess up so often is because this rail is the most intense version of practicing copy kicks that there is in the game, I think, because it's just a very narrow platform, right? You only have a few feet from the bottom of the rail to the top of the rail. You only have a few feet to actually get back on, and you're always going to be losing altitude while you're doing copy kicks. You have to land lower than when you started, than when you jumped off of the wall. So because of that, this is kind of the best place to practice because it's the hardest place to do it, but also the place with the most opportunity because it goes from one end of the map all the way to the other end of the map. If you do this absolutely perfectly, you are going to cross the map in about 6 seconds. Now, things we have to worry about when doing copy kicks is you obviously have to hit a pretty perfect wall kick in order for this to work, because the more speed you get off of a wall, the more time you're going to be able to spend in the air not attached to that wall in order to reconnect and reset that timer exactly when you need it to be reset and in order to reconnect to that wall. So if you don't really have the wall kicking in this game down, you're not going to get copy kicks. The point of this is the most advanced thing you can do, or at least one of the most advanced things you can do as far as Titanfall 2 movement goes. So if you don't have normal wall kicks down, this is going to be a pretty hard mechanic for you to master, and definitely not practical for your skill level. And be honest with yourself here, don't start practicing this and then get frustrated that you can't do it when you can't even do normal wall kicks. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm saying it's not healthy to practice things you aren't ready to practice and then get yourself frustrated over something that you were never able to do in the first place. Learn wall kicking before you learn copy kicking. This is one of the hardest things you are going to do in this game. As far as other prerequisites for this mechanic goes, you have to have your air strafing down pretty solid. If you can't air strafe out to the right and then back to the left onto a wall, you're going to have a really hard time resetting that timer. The reason I can reset the timer almost every single time when I'm doing this is because I know how to use the air strafing in this game to build as much air time as possible on a jump that normally you wouldn't really care about how long you're spending in the air. Copy kicks, just like wall kicks, operate on the same engine where if you hit multiple in a row, you're eventually just going to keep building up speed, you know? You don't get any less speed or more speed from this type of wall kick versus a normal wall kick that you would have practiced in the gauntlet or any other scenario where you've used wall kicks before. This gives you the same potential speed yield as those other mechanics would. Now, I know this guide was kind of short, and that's because there isn't a whole lot to say about it. This is one tiny mechanic within a mechanic within a mechanic. This is a very, very niche thing. I don't see a lot of people doing this because it's not very practical. And although the situation arises very often where I use them, I don't see a lot of people really thinking that this is a necessary strategy to use throughout your multiplayer experience. But as I've already said about 5 or 6 different times in this video already, this is just one of those things that once you're at the almost mastery level of movement, you can start practicing this and weaving it into your gameplay, because it definitely does help. A couple of different uses, and especially on Eden, this helps you break line of sight over and over and over. You're peeking from, you see somebody from like way down the rail and you're down here. Well, what you can do is you can jump on the side and you can stem or you can grapple or whatever, and then you can just get down low and then kick off this again, kick off this again, kick off this again, and the guy that's standing right here who is camping and looking all the way down the rail couldn't really hit you the entire time. They have to go over here and expose themselves and line themselves up for a shot they're not ready for, and in which case you can shoot back. This gives you kind of that advantage of, I've never seen someone do that, what do I do? And I use it a lot in other maps as well. Any map like Rise or Glitch, or any map like Dry Dock that has really high walls and lots of movement opportunities. These are all maps and situations in which I would actually use this as a mechanic unironically. Now, I know I've said this already once or maybe twice in this video, but this guide is pretty short comparatively to my other educational content, and that's because there's really not a whole lot to say. You know, it's a very specific mechanic within a mechanic within a mechanic. And that's kind of the stuff I like to focus on, those tiny little things to help you improve your gameplay. So if you guys have any questions about this specific mechanic, I know it wasn't explained incredibly well, but I would be happy to answer them down in the comments below. And if you want to see any other really specific and niche mechanics in this game, whether it be movement, with Titans, whatever it is, drop those in the comments as well. I'd be happy to answer your questions and or make videos in the future with small, tiny mechanics like this that nobody else really uses, because I have tons of them and I would just love to share them with you guys to try and help you improve. Anyway, that is going to be it for this video. And until next time, you guys have a good one, all right?